posterior muscle. Who know what is this muscle? Deltoid, Musculus deltoidus. It starts from spina scapulae, from acromion, and from acromion end of clavicle, anterior and attached to tuberositas deltoide of humerus. Anterior fibers participate in flexion in shoulder joint, posterior fibers in extension, and whole muscle abduction in shoulder joint. Abduction. Next, Musculus Supraspinatus. It starts from fossa supraspinata of scapula and attached to greater tubercle of the humerus. Abduction in shoulder joint. Musculus infraspinatus. Start from fossa infraspinata of scapula and also attached to greater tubercle. Supination in shoulder joint. Musculus teres minor. Start from lateral edge of the scapula and attached to greater tubercle of the humerus. Supination in shoulder joint. Musculus teres major. It starts from inferior angle and lateral border of scapula and attached together with Musculus latissimus dorsi. Look here, that is teres major and that is latissimus dorsi. And both of them attach in which place? Who remember? Latissimus dorsi, tuberculi minoris. Yes, crista tuberculi minoris of humerus. Function, pronation and adduction. Pronation and adduction in shoulder joint. And here it is impossible to see Musculus subscapularis. It starts from fossa subscapularis of scapula and attached to lesser tubercle of humerus. The same adduction and pronation in shoulder joint. Anterior muscles of shoulder girdle, they are Pectoralis Major. You already know that it is muscle of the chest, but it's attached in humerus in crista tuberculi majoris, and also it is muscle of shoulder girdle. Flexion, adduction and pronation in shoulder joint. And Musculus Pectoralis Minor, it starts from ribs from second till fifth and attached to coracoid process, moves scapula forward and downward. And the last muscle, the same in shoulder girdle, that is Musculus Coracobrachialis. It starts from coracoid process and attached to humerus. Flexion in shoulder joint. Come here. That is deltoid muscle, Musculus deltoidus. What is this muscle? Musculus Pectoralis Major. It is Musculus Pectoralis Minor. And this muscle, that is Musculus Subscapularis. More better to see this side. Just a moment. Look here. This one is latissimus dorsi, and it is Musculus subscapularis. And near of latissimus dorsi, not very clear to see, it is Musculus teres major. Teres major, latissimus dorsi, and subscapularis. Now, anterior muscles of the arm. Most famous muscle, that is biceps, Musculus biceps brachii. It has two heads, long and short. That is short head. It starts from coracoid process together with Musculus Coracobrachialis. It is Coracobrachialis and it is short head of biceps. And long head. It starts from tuberculum supraglenoidale of scapula, then pass through shoulder joint, pass in sulcus intertubercularis, and joint with a short head and forms biceps. And Musculus biceps brachii attach in tuberositas radialis. Function: flexion in shoulder joint and flexion in elbow joint. Next muscle. All of this muscle. Musculus brachialis. Musculus brachialis. It starts from anterior surface of humerus and attach in tuberositas ulna. Tuberositas ulna. Function: flexion in elbow joint. And posterior muscle. Posterior muscle, first of all, that is triceps. Musculus triceps brachii. It consists of long head of triceps, that is long head. It starts from scapula, from infraglenoid tubercle of scapula, tuberculum infraglenoidalis. Another two heads are lateral head and medial head. They both of them start from humerus. Lateral head start above of sulcus nervi radialis, and medial head below of sulcus nervi radialis, from posterior surface of humerus, and whole muscle attached to olecranon. Long head of triceps participate in extension in shoulder joint, and whole muscle, that is extension in elbow joint. Last muscle in posterior group, impossible to see, it is below of triceps, that is musculus unconeus. Unconeus. It's also attached to olecranon and participate in extension in elbow joint. Some words about topography. If we abduct our hand, we can see yourself in fossa axillaris, fossa axillaris, axillary fossa. But if you remove skin, subcutaneous fat, lymph nodes, like in corp, here it is, we can see axillary cavity, that is axillary cavity, cavitas axillaris. An axillary cavity has four walls. Anterior wall, that is what? Musculus pectoralis major and musculus pectoralis minor. Medial wall, help me, what is this muscle? What is this muscle? It is on medial wall. We start from upper 9 ribs. Who remember? Which muscle start from upper 9 ribs and attach to medial border of scapula?
Musculus
Serratus anterior. That is why medial wall, that is musculus serratus anterior, this one. Posterior wall, musculus subscapularis, musculus teres major, and musculus latissimus dorsi. And lateral wall, here it is humerus, together with musculus coracobrachialis and short head of biceps. They are lateral. And in axillary fossa, axillary cavity, we have 3 triangles in anterior wall, that is space between clavicle and the superior border of musculus pectoralis minor, this space, that is clavipectoral triangle, from here to here, clavipectoral triangle. Then in projection of lesser pectoral muscle, that is pectoral triangle, and from inferior border of lesser pectoral muscle to inferior border of greater pectoral muscle, subpectoral triangle. And posterior wall of axillary cavity has 2 openings. One opening clear to see, that is place where axillary nerve pass, that is foramen quadrilaterum, here it is, axillary nerve, and posterior artery which is surround humerus, arteria circumflexa humeri posterior, that is in quadrilaterum foramen. And medially we have foramen trilaterum, here it is, arteria circumflexa scapula take place. 2 openings on posterior wall. On the arm, we have 2 grooves between biceps and musculus brachialis. One groove medially, sulcus bicipitalis medialis, and another groove laterally, sulcus bicipitalis lateralis. And one canal, that is a canal where radial nerve pass. Look here, that is radial nerve, and this nerve continues into the canal between humerus and triceps. Name of this canal is canalis nervi radialis or canalis humeromuscularis, between humerus and triceps. Canalis humeromuscularis on posterior surface of humerus. And last moment. Brachial fascia, fascia brachialis, it is impossible to see, but you should know that this fascia surrounds muscles of the arm and makes two septum between anterior and posterior muscles. They are septum intermusculare brachium mediale and septum intermusculare brachium laterale. Next time, muscles of shoulder girdle, muscles of the arm, and topography of axillary cavity and topography of arm. I want to draw one diagram. Let's go to my table. Diagrams only for your understanding, not necessary to draw next time. Look here, that is a clavicle. Here it is Musculus Pectoralis Major. And below of Pectoralis Major, we have Musculus Pectoralis Minor. Here it is. And now space between clavicle and superior border of Musculus Pectoralis Minor, that is trigonum clavi pectorale, this triangle. Then in projection of lesser pectoral muscle, here it is pectoral triangle, trigonum pectorale, and from inferior border of lesser pectoral muscle to inferior border of greater pectoral muscle, that is subpectoral triangle. Three triangles, clavipectoral, pectoral, and subpectoral. That is anterior wall of axillary cavity. Now posterior wall, that is scapula. Here it is glenate cavity and humerus. Anterior surface of scapula closed with muscle, that is Musculus Subscapularis. Musculus Subscapularis. This muscle starts from scapula and goes to lesser tubercle of humerus. Goes to tuberculum minus. Here it is. Subscapular muscle. Below of this muscle we have Musculus teres major. Musculus teres major. It's attached to crista tuberculi minoris. That is Musculus teres major. And below of teres major, here it is latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi muscle. Musculus latissimus dorsi. It's also joined with crista tuberculi minoris like teres major. And we can see space between subscapular muscle and teres major. And this space subdivides with the help of long head of triceps. A long head of triceps. It starts from infraglenate tubercle, tuberculum infraglenidale, and goes to brachial region. That is triceps, long head of triceps. And we can see that space between subscapular and teres major muscles subdivides into two foramen. This foramen quadrilaterum, it has 4 walls, and this foramen trilaterum. Superior wall for both of this foramen, that is Musculus Subscapularis. Inferior wall, that is Musculus teres major. And in foramen quadrilaterum, lateral wall, sagittal neck of humerus, and middle wall, long head of triceps. And in foramen trilaterum, long head of triceps, that is lateral wall. Here it is axillary nerve and arteria circumflexa humeri, posterior. And this one, artery, arteria circumflexa scapula. That is vessels and nerves which pass through this foramen. Anterior wall, 3 triangles. Posterior wall, 2 openings. The same you need to know medial wall, lateral wall, and grooves and canals on the arm. Give me your manual, textbook, please. Topic number 6. Okay, you read muscles of shoulder girdle and muscles of the arm. Then, not necessary to read muscles of forearm and hand, but topic number H, it is in the beginning deltoid fascia, brachial fascia, till here only 2 paragraphs, till antebrachial fascia, not necessary to read this information. And next, topography of upper limb, that is axillary region, quadrilaterum, trilaterum foramen, till cubital fossa. Cubital fossa, not necessary to read. From beginning of topography till cubital fossa. Everything about muscles, it is fascia, and that is topography till cubital fossa. That is next Thursday, I think, yes? On Tuesday we have timetable of Friday, yes? That is on Thursday you will answer muscles and topography and fascia of upper of shoulder girdle and arm.